Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning.
Hello, everybody.
So
Good
I would like
night.
to think, oh yes. I'm from California, so we're just beginning our day here. So I would like to thank everyone, Christopher and the GatherVerse team, and this dynamic group of women that are here. And we will be discussing bias and discrimination in technology. So let's start by introducing ourselves alphabetically. So Alicia, would you like to begin?
My name is Alicia or Alicia. It really is diverse depending on which language you speak, and I'm welcoming that. And so I am the founder of S.H.E Creative. We are a group of ethnobotanists and digital dreamers who exist at the intersection of organic and digital technology. And what I do is design research and strategy and also develop immersive experiences for education and public interaction. Thank you. Oh, Rez, I think you're muted.
Deborah, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. I'm Deborah Thompson. I am president and founder of One Health Lessons. We are a nonprofit that inspires children and adults around the world to value the connection between our health and the health of the environment, animals, and plants. And we do that by using high quality education through technology.
Ms. Pinto, would you like to go next? Oh, I think you're muted. You're muted.
Wait.
I think you're muted. There we go.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Perfect. Hello, I'm Binta, director in technology data and founder of Circle Digital Art Technology, a Ikigai project. We are content creator in digital metaverse, and our passion is to metatherapy is to create some kind of well-being style with art. We are using mathematics combined to artificial intelligence to make some well-being product to people and to relax them, stress, anxiety, overall. I think that's all.
Amelie, welcome. Sorry.
Hello,
would you like to introduce
nice to
yourself?
meet you, everybody. So I'm Amélie. Marketing manager. I work with different brands to help them to shift from Web 2 to Web 3 and to understand how the social media ecosystem works and how can we improve through technology and, of course, metaverse and inclusivity.
Emily?
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm the creator of It'll Be Alright. My work is founded on inspiring the individual and empowering the individual to tackle collective issues. My research and work looks at the connectivity between algorithmic bias and subconscious bias and looking at how the decisions of programmers are influencing the recommendations put forward to users.
And Miss Jess.
Hey, I'm Jess Friday. I'm autistic and I have ADHD, and I work with other neurodivergent people through a company called Village, where we sort of cooperate in order to overcome inherent systemic discrimination against us and our invisible disability. And so I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Lynn.
Hi guys, my name is Lynn Getao. I'm from Nairobi, Kenya. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, GatherVerse. So I'm the founder Metaversations, and I'm also the founding member African Meta Club. what we do is educate the African continent about the metaverse, as well as give immersive experiences. And our main goal is to preserve the African culture and tradition in the metaverse for generations and generations to come. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Hello, my name is Rose, and I am the Africa Director for GatherVerse. I also work in social services, and I do assist the disabled and the mentally ill. And prior to that, I was in sales and marketing roles for large companies, and I was also in education. So before I begin, I wanted to bring some awareness, and this has to do with a study that I embarked on by MSP Radio, which published in their diversity report that only 21% of the women in tech business, 1.8% Black, 8.6% all other, and 89% white male. So I think this is the best way to segue into our first question, which is, how has technology played in perpetuating and amplifying bias and discrimination in society? And we also want to include in that not just the perpetuation of existing biases, but also touch on artificial intelligence algorithms. All right, so who would like to start that? Alicia. You're on mute.
Okay, there we go. I was hitting it and it was just frozen a little bit, but we're back in the game. So, I think where we're at is digital technology can only mirror what we already know. And it's kind of this feedback loop right now where we're starting to see AI become more ubiquitous, right? User-friendly. We're seeing AI being developed and created, just in the public sphere. So we're getting to see this in real time. And I think as all of us here can probably attest, when we go about our lives, we see that 89, we're surrounded by that 89% of, our male counterparts, and we feel the gravity of that discrimination and bias, and we still persevere through it. So, I think that that's where we're at right now. And, while tools like AI and machine learning are novel, they're really only amplifying these effects of bias and discrimination right now. And so this is why we're all here, right? So because we're saying we're paying attention and we're noting this, and we need to kind of remedy and kind of figure this out before it starts to also replicate in the virtual space that just dominance of the white male culture.
Binta, would you like to add to that as far as your experience in business side?
Do you hear me? Do you hear me? It's okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, on business side, if can I started before, we talk about bias, discrimination. I mean, this part is depend of perception. Bias depend of people perception, and each of us is different. And this is our world, if can I say that, make our world so rich and complex. And it's the same vision when we are in an organization, because we cannot find in general two people who can, see the world in the quick same way, and we are trying, to don't reproduce, okay, bias, because if you take the past generation, the generation, we are a lot of limitation as human. We are not perfect, okay. And in organization vision, in global vision, today they are trying, to build, okay, some kind of analytical methodic, can I say that? Based on machine learning, it is a behavioral analytic, mathematics scientific method, okay, to try to know the user and the user intention, okay, some kind of prediction, okay, and to build today or design a technology or an application, company in general try to target, okay, customer or end user needed or expectation before to build, okay, and to propose the good product. Is depend of the strategy of the company and vision to propose a product, okay, a diversified product, or if you want, okay, or to try to similar just a group, okay, is depend in general, and we are trying in general to working in this part and to try to find some equity, okay, but the most important thing is the problem, not the problem don't come from algorithm or artificial intelligence, because it's human who is building that, and we are working on ways to don't reproduce, because with globalization we are asking of a lot of data in technology information. We can access to a lot of culture, try to know different customer, okay, and this new method of analytical compartmental, this part to trying to, okay, find some perceive intention for the user. It is, for me, I think it is a revolution, but we need time, okay, in technology to, to explore, because it's a new way. A lot of companies using that to transform their product and to target a new customer, but it's a new way. We need to explore more and more. I think that is.
Thank you. And Jess, yes, you mentioned you had autism. Please add to this conversation.
Yeah. This is well, we can leave that part out for right now, but I want to speak to what Alicia and Binta were saying, which is just to reflect back that it is really not technology. Technology is a tool, it's people. And Binta, you were talking about the drive to, basically capitalism. And I just wanted to point out that the human behavior, when we look for these solutions to this huge imbalance we have in our world, the problems, just like the statistics you mentioned, Rose, are just mind-blowingly sad what that power imbalance is, and it can feel disempowering to look at it. But when you look at neuroscience and psychology and how people actually work, we can start to form solutions, because it's actually really simple. People operate 95% on subconscious autopilot. I mean, no, if you didn't hear that statistics before, it's absolutely mind-blowing, but you can forgive yourself a lot for all those New Year's resolutions that you didn't keep. Because once you're in a habit, you tend to stay in it. It's inertia, right? And that's how these systems work as well. Okay, so what drives these automatic behaviors? So everything is actually subconsciously a kind of strategy to get your needs met. Okay, basic needs, we can think of Maslow's hierarchy. Think of food and shelter. Those are your basic things. When you don't have those things, it's painful, which motivates you to do whatever you can to get those needs met. And there are all sorts of emotional needs too, and you can go into it. But when we look at it, it's really all to achieve a sense of safety. Okay, you've got your meal, you've got food stored up, you know where your next meal is coming from, you feel safe.
and who creates the safety for us, we don't really think in scale and systems. We think in personal relationships, and that's the communities we grow up with, the communities we grow attachments to, which are usually people like us. And who has been in power is cis-het white males and the providers. And so they want to feel safe. When you have this hierarchical system where there's a perceived limited amount of resources, these guys, hey, we need to have our good jobs, and then they're going to teach their kids to have a good job so their kids can support them when they get older, and they're keeping that community in power subconsciously, and it perpetuates, and that's how they get their needs met, and by suppressing everyone else. Well, you know, that then seems like, okay, it's part of the system, it's automatic. How can we find solutions? But there are women are half of the world, right? And we need our needs met too. And just because it's been out of balance, that doesn't mean we can't work together in solidarity with our community, our communities coalescing to get people's needs met. There are tons of people we are marginalized in a ton of ways, not just as women, but I'm neurodivergent, I'm marginalized that way, you're marginalized based on race, socioeconomic standing, class, sexuality. All of those things marginalize you, but those are all things that we can come together in solidarity under to get our needs met outside of these systems and create new systems that people will say, hey, I can get my needs met over here too, and I'm supporting these people that are part of a marginalized community, my community, let's work together, that kind of thing. So I think that's where the solutions ultimately will come from.
Yeah, Jess, I very much agree with you there. We've spoken separately beforehand, and I think we have a lot that we agree on. When it comes to algorithmic bias, I kind of think of it as a digitized version of subconscious bias. So as long as there are humans involved, the same issues that come with being a human are going to be perpetuated through the technology. So, if you think about the way subconscious bias influences our everyday life, well, the issue is we don't really think about it. It's subconscious. We don't know it's there. So how do we combat something that we don't really know exists? And I think on an individual level, it starts with just bringing awareness to yourself and bringing awareness to the thought processes and bringing awareness to what is reactive in your mind. When you see a certain something, how does it make you feel? How does it make you think? And then from a collective perspective, it's really about securing those essential resources so that we all have a stable platform to live off of. It's the issue of survivalism. I feel like this hierarchy that we live in was established so long ago, but it is through our subconscious habits that we perpetuate the legacy of our ancestors and therefore maintain this hierarchical status quo. So if we want to reach a point where we can effectively address our subconscious biases and therefore address algorithmic bias in tandem, we first need to set a platform for everyone to stand on. I was talking to Rose and Jess about this previously, but I like to think of it in terms of physics, where every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And if you are to have a system where you have to pay to live, there has to be people that can't afford it. That's just what you need to maintain that balance. So unfortunately, we have a system that's designed by cis white men historically to create a shift so that certain groups of people are more or less likely to be able to afford to live and therefore to be able to afford your rights. Because I feel that we don't really have rights, and it's not a guarantee, but we have a principle of rights that you can work for. you can earn it. You know, if you want healthy food, you have to work for it to get income so you can pay for it. But the right to have healthy food is something you have to earn. So I think that if we want to address the issues of algorithmic bias, we first need to address our subconscious biases by making sure that everyone just has the basics they need to live, because then we can be encouraging and empowering people from all walks of life to get the education that they need so that they can more effectively contribute to the production of the metaverse.
Great. Well, even with these numbers that I even saw today and I shared with you, what do you think that companies can do today? What the male white dominance can do today to change this and dismantle the system? You did bring, going back to the basics, but these numbers are out there for everyone to see. Like, a lot of companies take that responsibility of environmental contribution, right? That approach, I would hope, trickle into this, especially if this is something that's global. These numbers just don't come from the US. These numbers mirror what's going on globally. So anyone want to respond to that?
A global perspective after these 2 years of pandemic. And most of the company, they decide to hire like VP or diversity and inclusion manager, right? That's okay. But in that sense, there is a lot of VP of diversity who decide to quit their job because they can't handle the pressure for the whole company, for the whole employees. And they don't have a lot of perspective to achieve their goals when they are inside of the company. Meaning that they don't have budgets to work on relevant projects. They don't have support for the C-suite people. It can be the chief operation officer, it can be the CEO, it can be everywhere, everybody. And they don't have a lot of support from their team. So I think it's not a real solution. It's just a marketing aspect of the situation. But the reality is that the company, they need to refocus to the right people. They need to address a message to the right people. And they also need to invest in their team, because we just talk about technology in general. We talk about products. We build products. We build strong value, but we don't build purpose. That is the biggest problem in general. So for the global company, they need to, my point of view is that they need to refocus to people, because they just talk about the marketing aspect, about the diversity, inclusion, but they don't focus on people. And that is the big lack in my point of view.
Great point. Yes, Lynn.
Yeah, so maybe to add on to that, I think this is, as Emily said, it has been a system that has been programmed for the longest time. So finding a solution to will only not be a 1-minute thing or a quick thing. It will also take time. We have to understand things that are really deep rooted into our minds, that are already strongholds. It's so hard to break them down. So it will also take time. And I'm glad that we're having conversations like this, because these are the major steps that we're taking to pull down these kind of strongholds that we found that they were built by our ancestors. And also we should also acknowledge this thing is there. A lot of people don't acknowledge. A lot of companies, they see the statistics and everything, but they don't acknowledge. They say, wow, that is terrible. But taking the responsibility of saying, wow, we have realized that this company, blah, 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 we haven't been doing this, we haven't been doing that. Our year's goal, maybe for this year, is to maybe include this certain type of people, is maybe to make measures to train more people from the marginalized communities. Such kind of small steps. We don't ask them to just do it at once. Let's just make baby steps, one by one. And then we can also teach our next generation. It's upon us to not let our next generation inherit what we inherited. So we have to take responsibilities as mothers, as parents. Learn to teach your kids, as small as they are. This is how the world should work. They shouldn't learn from the world itself, because the world is already corrupt. So it's up to us as nurturers, as people who already know what is happening, to start the baby steps to teach the young generation as well. So that when it comes to maybe 50 years to come, 30 years to go, when they're already adults and they're the ones who will be running the companies, they already now have a good foundation to do it and include anyone. Yeah, thank you.
I do. Yes. Yes. Jess, did you want to add to that? Yes.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to add to Lynn's, because I can give an example of something like actionable that we can do. And the story involves two cis white males, but still we can apply it to our marginalized groups too. So yeah, so everything looks like so big and insurmountable as far as a system, but little actions. Here's an example of one. Okay, so this guy, Ben Whittle, has dyslexia. He's also a contractor. And this went viral on Twitter, actually, so you can look it up, Danny Richmond and Ben Whittle. Anyway, so he struggles with literacy skills as far as writing emails and contracts, things like that, because of the dyslexia. And you guys, we all have this implicit bias. When you look at a piece of marketing or something, and something is misspelled, a lot of us are kind of grammar Nazis. We think, well, this is not very professional, right? And we all have that. Well, the same thing happens. This guy's trying. He's really good at what he does. He wants to make a business, but when people get his emails, they don't want to do business with him because they think he's not professional. Well, he did a job for Danny Richmond, and they became friends. He obviously did a good job, because Danny Richmond was willing to be forgiving of this dyslexia, apparently, overcame that. Well, Danny became his mentor, and Danny happens to be a tech guy. And he looked at, okay, well, this guy's good at what he does, but he's not getting his needs met here. I'm a friend. I can help. I'm going to take 15 minutes for him to link ChatGPT to Zapier, to write Ben's emails for him, to rephrase it so it sounded professional. There were no spelling errors. And this ended up landing Ben like over 200,000 pounds in contracts after this. And now, the last I heard, they're going to make this into an app so a ton of people can benefit. And this just exploded. And again, it took Danny Richmond 15 minutes to do with the skills he had. He just saw someone whose needs weren't getting met. He looked at his skills, said, I can help. It's as simple as that. And it's huge.
Thanks for sharing that story. Nice. In a previous conversation, Binta had mentioned something that's very important, and that was safety. The more we are pushing towards technology, our safety is being compromised. And part of that group that's susceptible to that are the elderly and the youth. So can you kind of please further go into that piece of it that you mentioned, Binta? You're on mute.
It's okay now. Perfect. Okay, to protect some people because with internet, with digital, it's very complicated to to company to do the same time the job, to propose the product, but on the same time to protect people and to protect their system. Okay, and you mentioned, for example, the fact to have, for example, a job if you have some kind of dyslexia, handicap. Okay, for example, in Europe, we have a lot of, can I say, a law who can protect some minority, okay, and who, okay, obligate the company to offer a job, okay, to some minority. Several company, big companies, in general, big company, sign a regulation to make their company diversity inclusive, okay? And in data privacy part, we have, for example, the GDPR who protect, okay, people, personal data, but also in the company when we are recruiting some people, if there is some personal information and the people don't want to provide, or we can discriminate the people, we can in general make this data in the company private to forward some kind of mistake, for example, with, I don't know, with colleagues, because sometimes some handicap is not visible on the AA, and it is not all the time people has the chance to get a job in, for example, a big company. And very different law. For example, here in Europe, in general, there is a GDPR protect people data. I think in California, you have a CCAC. For example, it is a California Consumer Privacy Act. I remember that, who can protect also people data. Because today, if, for example, all of us receive already different email, different, okay, on our smartphone, also try to usurpate identity, try to make some fraudulence, okay? And on the same time, people in security IT, in general, they are using artificial intelligence, machine learning to track this. On the same time, these people will try to access to your data. And it means it is a funny battle, okay, between two parties. And in general, we are trying, company are trying to protect people data and some minority. I want this can be global, okay, in all the world, okay, because there is a lot of country we cannot access that, okay. But if in general stakeholder can take decision to make more and more, because as I said previously, in technology we have different culture, different people coming from different country, and these people need to work together to propose a product for a diversity, or okay. And stakeholders need to understand, as I say, people have their own bias and limitation, and we need to have more tolerance, more compassion to try to understand and to, forward our own mistake, our own bias and limitation, and to try to propose to the next generation something we can reflect the reality of our world. Okay.
Thank you. You touched on empathy, which is very, very important, especially when it comes to inclusion. And so let's go into social media platforms and how can we use them to contribute in spreading the bias that's currently going on, that has been going on. Emily, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I can talk about that. Obviously with social media, we know that there are recommendation algorithms that are designed to provide us with more content that is reflective of our history. So we have these programs that look at what we have done and then try to offer us things that it thinks that we will like, which is great, but there are obviously problems with that. And part of that is these feedback loops, where you have the program is constantly recommending you similar things, for example, and then this will then overtake the majority of the content that you're seeing. So this can then lead to sort of parallel loops in your mind where you have the same ideas, the same content, and the same visuals and same images that are constantly being shown to you, but in a slightly different way. So when you see it, you might think, oh, this is new, this is exciting, but it's actually the same base idea presented in a different way. And this can then lead to what I call concentrated thinking, or like a narrow mindset, or even extremist thinking, where you're constantly being shown the same things. And because of humans, because we are survivalist beings at this point, we are constantly needing to be aware of threats because we need to protect ourselves. So the news is a really great example of an industry that takes advantage of this, where we are shown things that are scary and things that are dangerous because we're like, oh, we need to see that because we need to know if this is something that's going to affect me and affect the people that I love. But the problem with this is it can lead to negative mindsets where you're constantly aware and constantly being shown some of the really bad things that are happening in the world. So we were talking a little bit about COVID. And how constantly being shown some of the really worst things that were happening in COVID when we're in isolation. This can lead to that negative mindset, but we aren't necessarily being shown, or we weren't necessarily being shown all the amazing things that individuals in the community were doing to support each other. I was the manager of a grocery store at the time, so I got to see how the community really came together to provide help for those that did not have access to basic resources. And when it comes to the way these loops can flood your content with certain ideas, we've seen how this has had an impact on our election results in the last few years, and we know that individuals that do not have appropriate education in how the internet works and how to do healthy, balanced searches are more susceptible to being manipulated into making a decision that they think is their own, but it's actually being steered by these algorithms that are just giving you the same content in a different format. So if we want to move forwards from this, it starts with, again, bringing that awareness to what is happening. And if you start seeing patterns in the content that you're seeing online, just taking a moment, okay, why am I seeing more of this? And what can I do? What can I search that will give me the opposite, so that I can bring some awareness to alternative perspectives rather than just getting honed in on one particular ideal.
Anyone, feel free to jump in on this. I
feel like what you're saying, Emily, like really struck with, becoming narrow-minded. Narrow-mindedness is, it is a feedback, a biological feedback that every human being who's engaging with tech regularly, we're having our neural pathways hardened into these regular, channels that we're constantly engaging with. Typically, this is a progression over time. As we age, our neural pathways are becoming hardened, and it is totally a survival trait, right? If that one tree is providing fruit, then you take care of that tree and your fruit tree will give you an abundant life, right? And so you start to build that relationship over time. And what we're seeing now is folks who are really 3 years old and up are engaging with technology and tech platforms regularly. So we're seeing younger generations having these narrow-minded inclinations and really just kind of focusing in on those fight or flight responses. This is where I really like to bring in that organic technology. So organic technology, I think our brain is organic technology. I think everything in nature that we can interact with, that we create a symbiosis with, that's organic technology. And I see there's a lot of opportunity, especially in the social media space, to really learn from those systems of nature. But then also one thing that I have hope for the immediate future is access to our own data. Because imagine if you could personally see all of the activities which are creating bias or discrimination. If you could physically get that feedback and read, or even have something that is in your environment, maybe if you're being a positive person contributing to a healthy lifestyle, your plant grows, right? Your fruit tree blossoms. And if you're being kind of, focusing into these doom and gloom, or even further being a nefarious actor in the digital space, then those consequences kind of come back. But you can see that digital feedback. And, this is where I see that there's real opportunity in this social space, especially when we're looking at data too.
Yes. Go ahead, Lynn.
Okay, so on social media, well, for me, that is such a huge topic actually, because I have experienced the good and the bad of social media, and we all have. So when it comes to social media, I have a background in mass media, communications, public relations, publicity. That was my career before I joined tech. And social media is the new media, is the new TV, is a new channel for communication to a lot of people. And with all that has transpired to all these, we have seen, personally, I have seen a lot of bias when it comes to how negative news are reported on social media. And there is this aspect of power dynamic. I remember just mentioning it. The one with the numbers, the one with the biggest numbers gets to control what is being shown out there because of algorithms. They favor people with big numbers. The more the followers you are, the more the blue ticks you have in your social media accounts, the more influential you have. We even now have a name for people who are influential in social media. We now call them influencers, and they all have blue ticks, and you will see them every time they post. They have this massive number of people commenting, liking. The more people are active on their posts, the more it goes viral. So what if this particular influencer posts something that is biased, an information that is not verified, you cannot account for, and it cannot be traced? Is it true or not? What if this person does that? It will spread virally. And the truth, sometimes, majority of the times, the truth is not said on social media. I have seen news about my continent and the places we live, the things that have been reported by mainstream media on their social media handles. And sometimes I'm like, what? Me? Is this really happening here? You are in the same location. You're like, me? What? And whatever the world is thinking about you, it's not what is happening on ground. And for me, who knows the truth, I don't have so much influence on social media, so I can just put out my opinion and say, hi guys, this is not the situation. This is just a bias or something that just happened for a minute, and it blew out of proportion. So when it comes to social media, the power also lies on the one who has the largest numbers of followers, or the ones who have the biggest following or influence. And for such kind of people, it is really important to be very empathetic. When you're posting something, when you're spreading a certain news, it's very important to verify, even just fact check from the people even who are there. Is it true? Is this information true? And employ empathy. Would you like your story to be posted the way you're posting other people's story? Would you like you yourself being depicted the way you are depicting other people's stories? We have seen a lot of very obscene images on social media, and they're not really impressive. It's not something that you'd like to show your kid, not something that you'd like to show your parents or someone around you, because they're very obscene. They have trauma, they have, and all these kind of things. You'll see them trending. At the end of the day, you'll see them trending, which is not really quite very ethical, I would say. Yeah.
Sorry, unmute. So, Amelie, would you like to add to that as far as the empowerment and uplifting marginalized communities and how organizations you feel can help and contribute to that? Amelie?
Oh, me? I was thinking that
Yes.
Emily.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think in global perspective, social media can address so many things because you don't have barriers. You can talk to everybody in general in the world. But when it comes to platform, they need to rethink, reshape, and reorganize their brand purpose, I want to say, because most of the time they just want to be trendy and to jump in the new platform that they decide to address or target because this is something new. For example, like when TikTok came in general in the technology ecosystem, there is so many brands who didn't have any specific interest to jump into the platform. But finally, right now is one of the biggest social media platform, even more than Instagram or Messenger or WhatsApp. It's pretty big. So we don't need to be everywhere. We just need to be where our audience are present and relevant to address the right product to the right audience. Because at the end of the day, you need to sell. And social media deserve to sell the right product.
So, Lynn, when you brought up verifiable information, and when I was in education, we were even teaching students how to verify information differently. When I was coming up, we had encyclopedias, periodicals, and books. Now it's pretty much at the palm of your hand, right? First thing you do, Google. So part of the teaching now that I've seen in the classroom is when you are researching, you should be looking for things that say org or .edu because the kids assume that whatever they Google and whatever comes up is the correct answer. And as we do kind of know, a lot of the algorithms or the popularity, everything that goes into it, into that is what goes first rather than the verifiable information, the correct information. And so even in education, as I mentioned, has definitely changed as far as how teachers are teaching the children on how to make sure they're getting the right information.
I have a little thing to add that just came up for me from what you were saying, Rose. I used to teach design thinking at the university here, and one thing that I would always encourage, specifically when it was 2020, 2021, and all of the students became remote learning students. And one thing that was really beneficial about that is that we could really access primary sources of research. So people can now reach out and personally access experts in the field. So there's less speculation about what research you bring in. You can actually go and email a a reporter or the head of a company or head of an activist group and talk to them. And most of the time, people will be open to communicating with students and facilitating those interactions. So I always encourage people to go to the source, because we have this way of connecting to a vast group of people all around the world.
So great examples of getting rid of that barrier and bridging to others, right? And reaching out to them. And let's take that as far as just identifying the differences and how our differences we can actually use when it comes to technology in a good way. Because I really believe we need to do something as far as shifting those numbers. I'm still like taken back when I saw that and what we can do, especially since we're a huge representation as far as buyers, right? Learners, all of these things. And so as Lynn and everyone's mentioned, this is a great platform. And, you know, what do we do next? So we mentioned technology and educating, raising awareness about discrimination and bias. So let's kind of even go back to the accountability part, social media. How can we hold it? Because even in social media, we're part of that, right? Can't just put that all on the companies and corporations. Anyone want to take that on?
Yeah, I can say something. I guess it comes back to empowering individuals to use their voices and to speak out if you see something that is incorrect, and creating a safe space so that everybody can come forward with their perspectives. Because obviously bias has the impact that it does have when we rely on a limited perspective. You know, the beauty of our diversity is that we each have a unique perspective. And if we can combine all of our perspectives, we can have a much clearer image of reality and what is actually going on. So if we want to create a system, whether it's a social system or a digital system, where we can limit the amount of bias that's having a skewed impact on what we do and what we think and what we say, I think we need to, you know, establish some kind of series of checks and balances where we can empower as many individuals as possible to feel confident speaking out when they see something that's incorrect. You know, if you have a society of people where they do not feel safe putting their hands up and saying this is wrong, which is unfortunately the case for a lot of people right now. You know, if you're in a job or something and your boss says something that is racist or sexist or discriminatory in any way, but you might not feel safe raising your hand and saying, actually, that's not right, that's incorrect, or that is immoral, because your life could be on the line, because you could lose your job, you know, or you can jeopardize your position, you can jeopardize your authority in your position. So this again comes back to resources and providing the basic needs, where if you as an individual will be protected, if you have what you need to survive, then this empowers you as an employee to be able to speak out and say that something is incorrect, because you know that if anything goes wrong and for some reason you're forced to leave your position, you can do so safely, and you will be able to provide the basic needs to your family. So I think when it comes to, you know, social media and the user perspective, it's obviously hard when it comes to the internet, because there's so many of us. So how do we filter through that to find the right voices? And then who gets to decide whose voices are the most important? Is it the people with the most followers? We don't know, not necessarily. That comes back to that same point that you made, Lynn. So for me, I don't have all the answers to everything, but I think it all comes back to empowering the individuals to speak out and providing them with the safety net that they need to be honest about their perspective.
Yes, there is a term that I never knew about, which neurodivergence, that Jess brought up. If you can kind of a little bit expand on that for me, please.
Neurodivergence just means that we are wired differently. Typically, it is ADHD or autism are two of the big ones that separate us. I just wanted to expand on what Emily said, just a little bit about that empowerment. So we kind of, and actually this is a great segue, because the neuromajority, neurotypicals, have built the world and the systems that we are currently living under as the majority. And this is a source of much suffering for neurodivergent people who, with that invisible disability, like a social interaction, it's just like the dyslexia thing. People discriminate you without even knowing they're discriminating. And so this is a product of the system. No one is doing it intentionally. We're all trying to meet our needs. But I would even say, not so much as holding this current system accountable, you know, what movement through history has happened, has created real systems change by petitioning the oppressive force, the oppressive system. It has never happened. What we need to do is to empower people to build new systems that meet the needs of marginalized people, of women, of people of color, of neurodivergent people, of disabled people, queer people, people who are just in a poor socioeconomic status as actually one of those things. And this is how social movements start. Start there, creating something new, meeting the needs of people who are discriminated against and oppressed.
Well, I want to say thank you, ladies, and thanks for everyone who joined us. And I want to leave us with this quote from Maya Angelou. I learned that people will forget